روزگاری که مادر از برای آگاهی من لب به سخن می گشود، عشق را در کلامش، نور را در دلش و پاکی را در نگاهش می فهمیدم.
In the mountains of northwestern Iran lies a deep blue lake, legendarily bottomless. This is believed to be the birthplace of the sage Zarathustra, also known as Lord Zoroaster. Lord Zoroaster was known to be an Aryan priest who broke from the traditional Aryan faith around 600 BC when he saw the light and declared himself the chosen prophet of the one and only God, Ahura Mazda. Zoroastrianism is the first monotheist religion of the world, believed to have led the way for Judaism, Christianity, and eventually Islam. Zoroaster reformed the Aryan faith and stressed the principle of dualism, the eternal conflict between good and evil. Zoroaster taught that life was a preparation for death. The central belief revolves around the good god, Ahura Mazda, and the god of evil, Ahriman. This is much like the Judeo-Christian and Islamic versions of God and the devil. Zoroastrians live life by three principles: good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, by which they can achieve heaven.
Our prophet Zoroaster really actually preached three simple things, three principles: good thoughts, good words, good deeds. And if you follow that, you have to be a good person.
The holy scripture of the Zoroastrians is called the Avesta. In its present form, the Avesta is a compilation of various texts and hymns from different eras.
A Parsi is supposed to pray 5 times a day. There are different timings from dusk, early morning till rising of the sun, then from morning till noon, then noon to afternoon, afternoon to evening night, and then after night. So it's divided into 5 parts. One can say prayers during any time of the thing. But normally, to the best of my knowledge and belief, all Parsis say their prayers twice a day at least.
It is a general misconception that the Zoroastrians worship the fire, when in fact fire is a symbol of ritual purity and a revered medium to reach out to the one and only God. However, it does remain a central feature of Zoroastrianism, whereby a perpetual fire is burning in their temples, known as the Agyari. Only clean dry wood is used, and the priests wear veils to prevent their breath from contaminating the purity of the fire. Some of the temples in Iran have fires that have been burning for the last 2000 years. Zoroastrians do not believe in reincarnation. The moment of death is the moment of truth, and those who have done good in life are headed towards heaven. The body is left on a tower of silence, a custom-built tower to be consumed by vultures, the sacred bird, thus completing the cycle of nature and the philanthropy that continues even in death. However, many Zoroastrians now bury their departed.
A tower of silence has to have water, a river or an ocean, because according to us, the tower of silence, we have to have 7 wells that are dug, and the bones, after the flesh has been eaten, the bones fall into the first well, which has certain acids in it, certain, I don't know what, pardon? Limestone, okay, in it, and that sort of helps to dissolve the bones, and then they go into the next well, and they are treated further, and so they go on until they've been completely treated, and then they flow out into the ocean.
After a child in a Zoroastrian home reaches the age of 7, there is an initiation ceremony called the Navjot. This is the first time the child wears the sedra and the kushti, which is a white shirt and a fine woven lamb wool string that are tied around the child by a priest, chanting holy verses in the presence of the holy fire. The child must also bathe with the holy water for cleansing and is thereby inducted in the Zoroastrian religion and is accountable for his deeds.
The Navjot is our initiation into the Zoroastrian religion, and both boys and girls have to have it. Basically, a young child of the age of 8 or 9 is initiated into our religion, and the child is taught about our religion and our prayers. And when the Navjot is performed, that means that the child has voluntarily accepted to be a Parsi and to go along with the teachings of Zoroaster.
The Arab conquest of Iran began in 633 AD under the caliphate of Hazrat Umar. Muslims brought with them a new way of life which was perceived as a threat to the Zoroastrians. New lands beckoned these Zoroastrians and their families, and many found themselves on the southern shores of Indian Gujarat in a place called Sanjan. Hailing mainly from Khorasan, laden with their books and holy fire and the hope of a welcome, the Zoroastrians of Persia waited with bated breath for their acceptance by the ruler of this new land. As the men and women bid their time, the king of the land, Jadi Rana, offered the guests a chalice of milk. In essence, this meant that the hosts were well satisfied and happy within themselves and had no need for new arrivals. The Zoroastrians dissolved sugar in the milk and returned it, implying that were they accepted by the hosts, they would bring sweetness to the host society just as the sugar had sweetened the milk, and will never be a threat to the host. Their assimilation in society would bring richness to India, and thus the Parsis were born. Parsi literally means one who belongs to Persia, and they developed their own identity when they accepted Jadi Rana's stipulations for staying in India. They were told to adapt the Gujarati language and garments. A ban on conversion was placed, which has now transformed into a tradition that Parsis still honor, despite it being a reason for their dwindling numbers. The arrival of the Parsis and the entire chronology of the events are recorded in Qissa-e Sanjan. For years and years, Parsis flourished in the main trade centers of India. As a community, they remained small in numbers, yet made it up by being well-educated and affluent traders for many centuries. Just before the Indo-Pak partition in 1947, there were 114,000 Parsis in British India. This is the highest recorded number of Parsis in the subcontinent. In 54 years, the numbers depleted to almost half, and in 2001, there were 69,000 Parsis residing in India. In Pakistan, the statistics are even lower, with only 1,800 Parsis spread all over the country. Karachi is the major hub of Parsis in Pakistan, and in the year 2014, there are only 23 Parsis in Lahore. Lahore, the Paris of Asia. a thriving metropolitan city of Pakistan known for its greenery and hospitality. The cultural capital of the country, with schools and universities mushrooming as fast as new eateries and art galleries, the heart of Punjab and the crown of fashion and talent. Amidst the hustle bustle of this economic and cultural activities lies a haven of quiet, simple abodes. Hidden from the main MM Alam road is the Parsi compound. Surrounded by a security wall, it has a scattering of small apartments which are rented out on nominal charges. The property is owned by Lahore Parsi Anjuman. The Parsis of Lahore are a mystery, so few in numbers, yet so well educated and cultured. They have their own distinct identity, which is evident from their attire, which is mostly saris for ladies and formal western wear for gentlemen. Their language is also very distinctive. In Lahore, the prevalent sound that an air can hear is Punjabi, and around a Parsi one can catch hums and thuds of a strange language. It is Gujarati, still spoken with gusto amongst perhaps all Parsis of Lahore. Most of them can converse in English, Gujarati, Punjabi, Urdu, and sometimes another language that they would have had to learn in school. Our search for this quiet and dignified community brought us in contact with some very hospitable people who opened their homes and hearts and helped us in understanding them a little better. Mr. Sarosh Challa resides in the Parsi compound, and him and his beautiful wife provided us with detailed and insightful information. Shavir Patel, a 24-year-old energetic youngster, a lawyer by profession and presently working in Pakistan Cricket Board, helped us in coordinating all interviews and took us around Lahore while we searched for answers to our questions. Mrs. Nargis Sobani, an elegant and beautiful lady, served us a sumptuous tea and spoke candidly about her life. And Miss Amy King, in spite of her busy schedule and travel plans, gave us an astute interview covering many aspects of the Parsi religion and life in Lahore as a Parsi. Shini Patel and her grandfather, Mr. Sohrab Patel, were also kind enough to help us out, and without whom this documentary would not have been possible. Most Parsis have lived here all their lives, their families having moved to Lahore for better economic opportunities. Mr. Sarosh's family owned the famous company Jamshedji's in Lahore, Kant, who were a major supplier for the British and Pakistan armies. Their business took a setback during the era of General Zia, and the Challas had to eventually wrap up their business.
My late grandfather wanted to improve the quality of life of his family, and being a little into the trading thing, he found that there was an opening in a shop in Lahore. So through a contact, he tried to reach Lahore, but by the time he was in Delhi, he ran short of money. So he spent the night with Tonga people on that sarai, and next morning he reached Lahore and he found an employment at a place known as Jamshedji Sons in Lahore Cantonment.
The Patels, however, moved to Lahore as late as the 80s.
My family moved to Lahore for work basis, basically. The opportunities were greater.
Parsi families traditionally give a lot of importance to education. They usually go to the top institutes, and we did not come across any Parsi who was not highly educated or did not have a profession. Like most old inhabitants of Lahore, the Parsis missed the old way of life.
It was wonderful. Aisha, Lahore was a wonderful, wonderful city to grow up in. It was a town at that time, it wasn't a city. And as I think back, we moved freely. We went on bicycles everywhere. Nobody, and Everybody was protective of everybody else. Children were looked after. I grew up in an area where there were a lot of Parsi families in Lakshmi Mansion, and we looked after one another. There were Hindus because I grew up in the pre-partition. My primary childhood was pre-partition. So we had a lot of Hindu friends there. It was a wonderful city. And all my life has been a wonderful experience living in Lahore.
I lived on Firozpur Road, and believe it or not, the Americans are now talking of neighborhood watch. There was neighborhood watch then, when I was growing up. Because if in the evening I was outside the gate by myself, the neighbor would say, "What are you doing here? Go home." Or he would walk me home, make sure that I went home if it was dark. And it was a lovely place to get up, to grow up. All our neighbors were our friends. Everyone was auntie, everyone was uncle.
Parsi living is simple living. It is strange to see the stark difference between a regular home in uptown Gulbarg and a Parsi home. Most of the Parsis in Lahore are affluent in terms of their monetary background, and yet the lack of ostentatiousness takes one by surprise.
I think generally we are very simple people and we like to live simple lives, and we like to do whatever we can to add benefit to the community wherever we go.
Mostly Parsis believe that simple living and high thinking is the core issue. So if one follows these principles, I mean, you'll find that there might be very affluent people but hardly showing it off.
Parsis live modestly because I would say we are not loud and we don't like to come into the limelight. Other than that, one of the major factors would be that they are all inheritively misers.
The compound has 2-room flats with a dining and a kitchen. Kept clean and tidy, it is a pleasure to be in a Parsi home due to their hospitality and friendly nature. Most Parsis living here have had either an economic or a family setback. Living in a colony gives them the strength to move on with life with the support of neighbors who sometimes become closer than their blood relatives. Most Parsi homes in Lahore have elderly couples or singles living alone. Their children, if they have any, have migrated abroad or to Karachi for better opportunities. This means that the average age of Parsis in Lahore at the moment is 70 years and above. Only 2 families have young teenagers, the Jassawalas and the Patels, and both families have homes outside the compound. The youngsters have assimilated well with the Muslim majority of Lahore, but sometimes miss having their own families.
My friends here are my family. I don't have anybody here, so whoever we do meet and get close to becomes our family. So no, haven't felt the absence. But yes, I have felt the absence of my own immediate family. Like my mom's brother, my mamu, and my dad's sister, my popo, they are in America and Canada respectively. So not having them around for 10 to 12 to 15 years, it gets lonely because, you know, when there are happy occasions like Nowroz and Khudat Sal, and even like you guys Eid, when you guys all get together, families, I feel I'm missing out on my family. So yeah, there is a sense of emptiness.
Not having Parsis our age is, you can say it's a drawback because it does take you away from your own community and your own religious beliefs and everything, and you are looking for cues left, right and straight. And basically I did adapt with the people around me to grow to adjust to people. So basically, yeah, you can say so, because when I go to Karachi I do feel I'm alienated with these guys and I'm nothing like them. So yeah.
A Parsi youngster of Lahore is no different from a Muslim teenage, surviving in modern day Lahore, dreaming of a better future for himself and his family. A Parsi temple is called the Agyari, and it is presently situated next to the Parsi compound where it was brought in 1993.
This Agyari was built, the original Agyari was located at a place known as Rettigan Road in Lahore, just behind the Animal Husbandry College, behind the old district courts, in 1893. I repeat, 1893, and was moved to this location, I mean the present location, in 1993, because that was a low-lying area.
Lahore does not have a tower of silence for the departed souls. There is a graveyard near the Minar-e-Pakistan, which is centuries old, and this is where the Parsis bury their dead. Interestingly, the younger generation wants to go to the Tower of Silence.
Well, I don't like the idea of getting buried. I honestly don't like it because I don't know why. I think I'll suffocate even though I'll be dead, but there's a sense of claustrophobia deep down below. So it would either be cremation or the Tower of Silence. If there is the presence of vultures, then I would definitely go for the Tower of Silence.
For me personally, as a person, I would rather go into the silence of tower. Why? Because A, nobody comes near it once you're gone, and you're left there and you're forgotten. You're truly forgotten in a sense that nobody really does go to your grave and cry all day long, we miss this person. So in that sense, I do agree to it.
The older generation who have seen their forefathers being buried in the graveyard want to have their last rites the same way and be buried.
Again, we grew up in Lahore where has always been a graveyard. We visited the graveyard with our parents. The mindset is that you have accepted that form of interment. And so I would prefer to be buried, and I don't mind cremation. But the Tower of Silence is not something that is, to my way of thinking, very viable right now.
I, however, have always known burial in Lahore, and since my parents, my grandparents and all have been buried, obviously I too would like to be buried.
Nowruz and Khudad Sal are the two main Parsi festivals that are celebrated in Lahore. Nowruz is the New Year's celebration, while Khudad Sal is the Prophet Zoroaster's birthday. Nowruz was celebrated with great zeal when there was a sizable number of people in the Parsi community.
As kids, we used to decorate the house with colorful chalks, and you stamp them around different patterns. So, just like in India, Holi ke saath, they make those different patterns. And we used to do that, and then there is a table that's set with all Nowruz related items like, flowers, and then Parsi specific dishes, desserts, and basically mom does that. And we then, in the evening, the community gets together, just like you were there, and we play games, especially for the kids. Now that there aren't many kids, so there aren't many games, but we used to play games, and as kids there used to be prize distribution ceremony for those who did well in school.
For each festival, we prepare. Early morning, what happens is you clean the house, you then do what is called toran, which are flower garlands on all the doorways. And then we do the patterns of lime on the floor, which are called chalk.
These days, the only festivity is a dinner at the Awari Hotel on the mall. A game of tambola is followed by dinner.
3 and 0, 30. 7 and 3, 73. And 1 and 4, 14.
The dwindling number of Parsis in Lahore is mainly due to two reasons. One of them is the number of children Parsi couples have. It is hardly ever more than 2. And the other reason is the migration of Parsi families towards the West, mainly due to economic reasons. However, when we asked what made them stay in Lahore, when so many of their friends and families had moved abroad, there was an interesting deluge of answers.
I never had a problem. All my friends were here, we grew up here, we had no problem, we never ever thought of migrating. We've always been very happy here.
The idea of migrating does hit sometimes, considering the conditions of Pakistan. But again, you can have a lot of luxuries in Pakistan which you cannot have abroad. So being a lazy person, no, the idea doesn't really tempt me a lot.
Love for the soil. Love for the soil.
Would you want to migrate or would you want to stay in Pakistan?
Would I want to migrate or would I want to stay in Pakistan? Well, if you talk about staying in Pakistan in terms of my community, there's nothing there. So yes, I would want to migrate to a place where there is a community of like gathering of Parsi people, because I feel I am missing out. I don't know things I'm supposed to know about my religion and about my community. So I want to have that closeness, connection, sense of belonging, which I don't have now. So yes, I would want to move somewhere where there is a close call for the community and I could practice my religion more.
Love of Pakistan. Pakistan is a beautiful country, Aisha. I only hope that there is peace comes to this country, that we are secure here. We would not want. What is there that we do not have in Pakistan?
These patriotic Pakistanis see the future of their religion in a contrasting light. Nargis Sobhani was very optimistic.
Again, we come back to the same security, peace. If that happens, then there is a revival. Parsis will come to Lahore, because people hear about Lahore and how wonderful it is, of the Punjab, how hospitable it is.
However, Shireen was a bit skeptical.
The future of the Parsi community in Lahore, I see no future. They're all old people and they're all eventually going to die.
While others also had conflicting views over the future of Parsis in Lahore.
The future for the Parsi community in Lahore is not very encouraging, because right now there is no younger sect to take over. But I am a very optimistic person. I feel that there is always a silver lining to a cloud, dark cloud, and good days are ahead. We may be at the end of a wrong tunnel, but there is sunlight at the end of it.
The Parsi community was an integral part of the diaspora of Lahore. Parsis, who were once the gem of Lahore crown, are now only a handful, with names like Bepsi Sidhwa, the famous writer, and Mr. Dinshaw Challa. The list goes on, and yet our quest here is finished. We have found answers and beyond.